Welcome to a new Daily Top Askreddit video. Today's topic: how do you feel about a law stating that tickets, speeding, driving under influence etc. should be a percentage of the perpetrator's annual wage, instead of fixed rates? It's worth noting that in the US, this has been tried/proposed several times in several jurisdictions and courts toss it out. This is a massive simplification. BC the full explanation is super complicated, but in the US punishments must be clearly delineated, not arbitrary, in the statute and based on the crime itself, not on the perpetrator her/himself. And to be clear, a judge has discretion to waive/reduce/etc. due to hardship, but it really doesn't work the other way. A judge can give you the max but he can't just arbitrarily tack on a punishment higher that the statute permits B/C you are rich. Edit to add, getting way too many replies to answer PPL. But here is something to think about: the 8th Amendment plus the 14th Amendment together prohibit punishments that are arbitrary. This means that when you are punished for a crime, there has to be a set penalty in place. This means that if two people commit the exact same crime under the exact same circumstance in the exact same jurisdiction, they would get the exact same punishment. If a punishment was based on your income, you'd get two different outcomes. This is why these laws get tossed. There's a famous quote I'm butchering that goes something like, "Justice can never be served by the roll of the dice," meaning different outcome for different people in identical situations isn't justice. Another thing to consider: your income itself is also arbitrary. On Monday you're unemployed, the next day you take your last dollar and win the lottery. If you got a ticket Monday, the punishment is $0. On Tuesday your punishment is $, with no change in the law itself. That's too arbitrary in the eyes of the law. There are also several other challenges in the way of income-based fines, but the 8th plus 14th Amendments are the big ones. Final edit: there's a ton of "but" in Germany. Or "but" in Finland. Or if it works in Europe, it can work here. Other countries can do whatever they want. In the US we are bound by the US Constitution. There's not a lot of wiggle room short of 1. Passing an amendment, or 2. Pushing through a whole new interpretation of several amendments and getting a whole shitload of precedent reversed. Good luck with that. When I was young and broke, I had a stop sign ticket that the judge waived most of the fees when I asked if I could make payments on the ticket. It helps when you show up to city court and are honest about your finances. Unfortunately, I think for many people who love paycheck to paycheck, it can be a very difficult decision: miss work and show up to court. DUI is not just a ticket though. It's a way of life. This man drinks. It is in Wisconsin. Laughs in 12th DUI. I did actually do that. Finland already does something like this. It's called a day fine. I guess it's okay if it's for minor things like parking tickets, which is how Finland does it, but it definitely should not be applied to things like DUI. That is just stupid. Some Finnish guy got fined couple $100,000 for speeding. Can you imagine the amount of income some local Finnish government would make if they caught someone like Kimi Räikkönen or Valtteri Bottas speeding Malmö? Money shouldn't be part of the punishment at all. Punish in some other ways, like community service or something. This is actually a really good idea. I'd rather pay $100 than take a day off work/school. This way I'm less likely to speed. I mean, time is money, quite literally. That $100 fine equates to just under a day of minimum wage where I am, so. A score system, subtracting points until you lose your license, make wonders. Yeah, or a system of social credit. Wait. Well, the system already works like that. It's not as if you can just rack up infinite traffic tickets and you're fine as long as you always pay them. After a certain amount of tickets in a certain period of time, in California, I think it's like 4 in 1 year or 6 in 2 years or something, they take your license away, or at least start threatening to take your license away. I actually agree with this. A $200 fine can be devastating for someone living in poverty. Revoking that person's license can mean that they can no longer work. On the other hand, $200 is nothing to a rich person. It's like the change you find in your sofa. That's exactly my point. When you get caught doing 200 miles per hour in your Lambo, you may get fined $1,000, which mean nothing to you. But maybe you'd think twice if it had cost you 50 Kelvin. But maybe my suggestion is more biased towards punishing rich people more than sparing the poor. Think of more as scaling the fee so that it's still meaningful. Why are editors so hopped up about this? Is there an epidemic of rich people doing 200 miles per hour through neighborhoods? BC speeding tickets are affordable. I'm probably going to be in the minority here, but no, I think it's a bad idea. Or at least not a great idea. People should, at least in theory, should be equal before the law. The context in which the illegal action takes place should be a factor. Stealing bread to feed your starving child, vs stealing bread from a starving child for fun. But it's a dangerous road to go down to punish one person more than another for nothing other than who they are. In general terms, harsher sentences don't deter crime, for the most part, most of the time. Hopefully I made that soft enough to avoid one-off counter examples. The income thing is a little more complex than you might think. Is it your tax return from last year? What if you made a lot last year, but are unemployed this year? What if you make no money but your spouse/parents etc. are rich? Do we look at wealth or just income? Numerous other problems. Edit. Credit to you/Blueshirt38 below for the idea, but local police may disproportionately target rich people, i.e. nice cars, in order to get more income. Some people might think that's a good thing, but the roads are less safe when that happens. Edit 2. Many of the objections to my point, I think, can be reasonably summarized as the following. We agree that law should be applied equally, however the effect of the law is unequal and the real-world effect is that poor people are punished more harshly for the same crime, because the fine represents a larger proportion of their net worth. That is inherently unfair. That's a reasonable argument, and it comes down to the same general idea as the old equality of opportunity vs equality of outcome argument. Allow me to give some counterfactuals in the same VN. A healthy 20-year-old person and 70-year-old person both commit the same crime. The expected lifespan is 80 years. The young person is expected to have 60 more years to live, so they should receive a 30-year sentence, 50% of the life they are expected to have left, and the old person has less time left, so they should receive a 5-year sentence. A rich person and a poor person walk into a store. They both want to buy the same item. The poor person offers $10 and the rich person offers $20. The store owner must accept the $10 payment because it is a greater percentage of the poor person's net worth. A talented successful person with a loving family and a loner with nothing going on in their life both commit the same crime. The jail time affects the person with the family more, so they should receive a shorter sentence, because the jail time affects them harder. In all of these examples we are trying to correct for unfairness by various metrics, and applying legal and economic force to correct it in ways that hopefully look weird to you. Hopefully that articulates how I feel about the fairness factor, and that I don't hate poor people. I am poor and I hate myself, but I don't hate other people. #3 gets even more complex if you add in assets vs debts. I make a good income, have a home, but I also have a 6-figure student loan. I budget for all this and live within my means. However, if I get hit with a fine based on income alone, it's going to probably hit me harder than one would suspect at first glance. Exactly why Reddit's hatred of rich people is so asinine. The problem is, we're not all equal financially, so when the law uses finances as a penalty, it is automatically unequal. I get the logic, I just don't necessarily agree with it. I'd rather see an option to volunteer 3 days' time for a good cause vs pay $200, and the person can choose. Or something along those lines. A $200 speeding ticket going up to $5,000 because it was a millionaire speeding is a huge conflict of interest. A lot of smaller towns and municipalities already make a huge percentage of their revenue from speeding fines. You would essentially be daring them to pull over every car over a certain price point that goes 5 miles per hour over the limit. The problem here is that the money goes to the police. Ticket revenue should absolutely not go to people issuing tickets. That sounds pretty obvious to me. I would prefer mandatory community service hours that actually benefit the community and that nobody can buy their way out of. I would say on average a poor person would be hurt much more by needing to take time off work for community service than a rich person. As someone who works 6 days a week and still can't afford a car payment and an apartment, I concur. If I have to miss time, I'm fucked already. I would feel poorly about a percentage-based system for several reasons. Many wealthy people, particularly those who are self-employed, often actually draw a very low annual income for tax purposes. Some would actually wind up benefiting from a percentage-based system. It would be difficult to predict what the annual intake would be based on such a system. there is a risk of that annual intake significantly decreasing and leaving the relevant government and or public departments with much less funding. From a more practical perspective, wealthy individuals will just hire lawyers to dispute those tickets anyway. It's an area of the law with a depressingly high success rate in most jurisdictions. Oh hey, it's another one of those comma group feel-good majority catering threads. And as usual with those, UP's idea falls apart when confronted with reality. Rich people have chauffeurs. Unpopular opinion warning, and I am prepared for the downvotes. But I just want to say I think respiring in an oxygen-rich environment is great and vital for our survival. I too enjoy when my human sex organs are stimulated.